Welcome back to episode 3 of the Catching Flies Wrestling Podcast. I am Stephen Burton. Joining me as always, he is an author, has a master's degree, is an actor, the Greek philosopher himself, Pete Makadis. How's it going, Petey?
What's up, Steve? Thank you for that great intro as always. You always boost my ego up just a little bit as we head on ready to get the show on the road. Uh Little spoiler alert for any Breaking Bad fans out, non-Breaking Bad fans out there. That was a mouthful. The last person called a philosopher on that show did not meet a good end. So hopefully I'm on the opposite end of that spectrum. I still appreciate the love. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you all for coming here and hanging out with us for what Stephen accurately described as the third episode of the Catching Flies Wrestling Podcast. We're in the middle of it this week. We have a pay-per-view that just took place and a pay-per-view that's about to happen. So we're going to be addressing all that right about I'll say now. Sound like a good time for you?
Let's do it. My gears are full.
My gears are full too, and we are coming off AEW's presentation of Full Gear, and there were 12, 13 total matches. There were some matches on the pre-show. We were using some old information in last week's show. We were under the impression that the finals of the Eliminator tournament would be on the show. It's actually going to be this Wednesday on Dynamite. But one of the semifinal matches for that show was Ricky Starks advancing into the finals to face Ethan Page. He actually beat Brian Cage in that match. We also had the Best Friends beating the Factory and Eddie Kingston defeating Jun Akiyama, pardon me, on the pre-show. Anything special going on for you on the pre-show?
I enjoyed that match with Eddie. You could tell
Mm.
it meant a lot to him. It was like a tribute to his heroes. Eddie Kingston is known for being a big lover of all Japan, and so it meant a lot to Eddie. So it was a fun moment, a good way to kind of get the crowd going, amped up. I enjoyed it overall. Nothing too special, but it was a solid match.
Right. And part of me, I'm gonna say his name right, Jun Akiyama. I got it wrong
Yeah,
the
that's
first
right.
time. Long time Japanese stalwart. Kind of been one of those under the radar types. He might be like the Tito Santana of Japan. It's like he's always been there. He's always been great. Um, Never quite got the credit he deserved. That sounds like Tito Santana to me. For those of you old enough to remember Tito Santana, my hands in the air. All right, so let's get on with the main card. And they went ahead and started right off with a steel cage match between Jungle Boy Jack Perry and Luchasaurus. Right from the beginning, before the match started during the intros, they announced that the match had to be won by pinfall or submission, which most wrestling fans probably perked their ears up and realized this match is going outside the cage at some point. And that's exactly what happened. Tell us what you thought about the match, Steven.
Yeah, that's a dead giveaway. That's the first thing I thought of as soon as they said that. I was like, well, no escapes then.
Yeah.
So overall, I thought it was a fun match. Jungle Jack is coming into his own. He's maturing. Um, I like the heat between Christian and Jungle Boy, and I'm kind of a little tired of the making fun of his father that's passed away. That's kind of rough, but overall, it was a good match. It's a good hate feud. I still think the whole setup was weird. Like Luchasaurus turned like 6 times before deciding to finally be a bad guy. But overall, it was a interesting way to start a pay-per-view off. I don't know if I've ever seen a cage match start off the show.
Uh, the last one I could remember is TNA Lockdown, just because all the matches were cage matches. But yeah, other than you're right, other than Luchasaurus's kind of stop start face heel, whichever dynamic, the feud has been good, and the match was good. The feud has been better, which made the match good for me. There's an issue we have the match that at least I have with the match that I'm going to bring up on a larger point, maybe a little bit later on. But and correct me if I'm wrong. Does Jungle Boy have the most wins in AEW history? Correct. It's either him or Mox. I think it's
Yeah, I believe that he is.
he is he is
He's either had the most matches or he's got the most
and
wins.
so
It's
he is somebody with. I mean, when you give somebody that
prominently
much time,
displayed. Yeah,
right? You
prominently
give
displayed.
when you give someone that much prominence, yeah, you want him to come out of a pay per view with a nice win. There's still maybe a match down the road with Christian Cage too, so the feud doesn't have to be over.
I think this match was gonna be Christian until that shoulder injury
Right.
there.
And once he gets healthy,
They called an audible. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, you definitely got to go back to that.
yeah, but
So
we like the winner of the match, Jungle Boy. We think it deserves Jungle Boy fans, and he
absolutely.
is a tribute to the power of an entrance theme because his entrance theme is Tarzan Boy, and I can't remember. It's a terrible song. It
So
really is,
catchy though.
but it works for him as a wrestling theme. I mean, that's what's great
Absolutely.
about it. It's one of those like horrible like. I'm a big 80s music fan. I'm like, don't use this song to define the 80s, please. But as an entrance theme, it is phenomenal and it fits him. It gets the crowd going. So yay, wrestling themes.
Absolutely. Yeah, the crowd was definitely into it. The only problem I had with the match per se was I'm sorry, but if you put somebody through a table from the top of the
Yep.
cage, like if you jump off the top of a cage with an elbow drop, put somebody through a table, that's got to be the finish. Like, what are we doing? Putting him in a submission after? I
Right.
mean, you just jumped off a 20-foot cage. What more does he need done to him? So that was my only hiccup with this match. But other than that, it was a good start.
Yep. And that serves as a slight spoiler alert for the overall issue we're having with wrestling in general. But we'll get to that after the review's over. Next up, placement of the card was interesting for this one too. The 6-man tag team match for the trios championship, which turns out to now be match one in the best of seven series. Death Triangle, your reigning champions, against the Elite, the former champions who never properly lost their titles. Ended into a Death Triangle victory. Did that surprise you?
Very much so. Crowd was hot for this. About 20 seconds into the match, there was a very interesting chant that I never thought I'd hear the crowd chant.
It's kind of the opposite of the old
Uh,
chants, right?
yeah, yeah, they were
The
they were chanting CM Punk's name,
they
but
sure
they
were.
used a four-letter word in front of it that we won't use here.
It
But
wasn't love.
no, no, it definitely wasn't love. Um, I think the crowd showed whose side they were on per
Uh-huh.
se in this match. And seeing Kenny Omega back looking healthy, that pumped me up. He's my favorite wrestler. I think he's the best in the world, and that's not just a moniker. He finally looks healthy again. The Young Bucks look great. I mean, and I don't know if there are four guys who work better together than Pentagon, Phoenix, Nick, and Matt Jackson. I mean, every time these guys are in the ring, special things happen. They are flawless in their execution of moves. And this match was incredible. To me, the best match of the entire show.
And finding out later that it was the best of a seven actually put a little bit of a damper on our surprise. So being the best of seven, they could win three matches in a row. You suppose the elite will win the next. The best of sevens almost always go into seven
Yeah, it's
when we're
going
talking about
seven.
wrestling. Yeah. So we didn't know this match was going to be on the show when we did our preview show that was announced on Dynamite the next day. I may have leaned toward Death Triangle, just gonna get the elite back in there. I do agree with you that Kenny looked way different than he did when he first came back, and he was wrestling with what looked like a sweater on, and he just didn't look like he was
Yeah,
involved, and he
I
looked
think
like
they
old Kenny.
yeah, I think they rushed it back just a little to begin with. The suspension may have been um, a positive thing in that aspect of giving him more time to get healthy. The biggest surprise to me, though, in this match was the guy who's always refrained from cheating and seemed to be the kind of baby face of the Death Triangle. Phoenix decided to finally go to the dark side. Just
Mm-hmm.
wondering your thoughts on that.
Well, Phoenix. and we talked about this last week when I was talking about the dynamic between Swerve and Our Glory to have like one more heelish member of a tag team, and more often than not, or almost pretty much always, one of them is going to be brought into one direction or the other. So to see Phoenix go more to the dark side than Penta a little bit more to the light side was unexpected but welcomed. I mean, I think he is not quite Rey Mysterio, but he is expressive. Even though he wears a mask, you can see his emotions on his face, and he can pull off being a heel. I don't know if he'd be able to do it on his own, but as part of a larger group, I think it works.
Yeah, you could see his body
Yeah,
language. He was disappointed in himself, I think, for using the ring bell hammer. But overall, it was a good way to get the elite back
yeah.
in. The crowd was super pumped to see him. Uh, but yeah, it surprised me that Triangle did get the first win. I figured with the elite coming back, they'd throw him one, uh, and get him off and running. But two bangers to start the show. The fans have definitely got their money's worth there so far.
All right, and that brings us to our next match, which man, you can tell me whatever you want about it. I got really nothing to say about it. Jade Cargill defeated Nyla Rose, retained the TBS championship. Cool. What you
I'm just
got?
gonna say worst storyline in AEW. Jade Cargill, I think, is a future superstar. She's got the look, she's got the body, she's got the ability. She's got to keep getting better each week. But yeah, not much to say here. You knew she was going to win her title back and actually get to take it with her.
Right. Cool. All right, next match. Chris Jericho,
Right.
Brian Danielson, Claudio Castagnoli, and Sammy Guevara, four-way match for the Ring of Honor title. Jericho retained as we predicted. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it was a fun match. Sammy Guevara, he looked like to me the guy who was taking all the bumps in this match, the star of the match. He worked his tail off. Uh, really liked I liked when he kind of went for the pin and Jericho was kind of a little shocked by it, and then they got into it.
Mhm.
And I really didn't foresee them fighting each other much, or if at all. So that was an interesting dynamic to the group and to the match. Overall, Brian is Brian. He's great in everything he does. Same with Claudio. I wish Claudio had more emotions other than just being fired up. Because I really think he's super talented and could be one of the top guys in the company. He just doesn't have any charisma. Um, but the match itself is interesting. Four-way match. Not much else to say about it other than the Ocho is, he is the GOAT. He's simply incredible to keep doing what he's doing at 50 something years old.
All right.
I think they left the title on him too. I do want to say this. I think they left the title on him because the rumors Tony is shopping ROH, trying to get a TV deal to have another TV show. And I think the only way they're going to be able to get another deal is if Jericho is the face of that company as well.
Right, absolutely. And we pointed that out last week. And just to we give ourselves the credit by saying we predicted Jericho would win the match. But we were wrong about one thing, and it was pleasantly surprising that we were, is that we thought this might be more of a glorified tag team match. And it turned out to be kind of a proper four-way match with alliances in place. But Claudio and Brian went at it, Jericho and Sammy went at it. But Jericho winning works. Like we've said, he was given the first AEW championship to get that show up and going, to get that brand up and going. And if ROH is going to be a separate brand, um, disconnected from AEW while under its umbrella corporate wise, then yeah, you could do a lot worse than putting the title on Jericho. He defies age at this point. Yeah, he's 51, maybe even 52, but I mean, he can still hold the crowd in the palm of his hand. He can still work a good match. You don't want him to work 6 days a week. He doesn't
Sure.
have to. And then he's one of those guys. He's perfected the art of leaving and coming back stronger. which is something I think all wrestlers should take advantage of. I think a lot of guys are afraid to lose their spot. Well, someone like Jericho, he's never going to lose his spot. If he's on a roster, he's going to be prominent. So,
Absolutely.
so keeping that title on him, the Ocho nickname is still cool, uh, and we're all in on that. Pun somewhat intended. All right, the next match. This is kind of back in the day, WWE when they were the WWF when they did big shows. They'd always kind of put their second biggest match in the middle of the show as like a semi-main or like a halftime main event or whatnot. And I felt this is what it felt like to me to see this match coming up next. It was Saraya versus Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, and as everyone would have predicted except me, Saraya got the win. But I'm going to re-explain my position on that after we hear your thoughts on the match. What'd you think of it?
It was great to see Soraya back in the ring, and you could tell the emotions were high. I thought she was going to break down crying on the way to the ring. She looked great, great gear, great, her makeup and hair. She looked like a star, which is what AEW needs in their women's division, stars. Um, after 5 years of not doing this job, it's going to take her time to get her body back into shape, so to speak. I was listening to Bully Ray talk about on Busted Open. He doesn't think she was blown up in her lungs, but thought her muscles were blown up because she looked slow. You could see the fatigue. It was a good match. I think the crowd though was more nervous about her getting hurt than they were enjoying the match. It seemed like they were super flat, which really caught my eye. But in the end, Soraya got the win. She gave Britt Baker a lot of love after the match, thanked her in the post scrum, and flat out said she carried her, which I think is a big compliment to Britt Baker and shows how far she's come and that she truly is the face of the women's division. But very eager to see where they're going with this. Glad to see Soraya back. Hope she stays healthy, and I think this feud's just getting started potentially.
Right. And I did have a question. I wonder if I am alone on this, but Soraya kind of looked like maybe she had the how do I want to say this gingerly, the Stephanie McMahon treatment, maybe.
I
Maybe.
uh, I agree with that.
Okay, fair enough.
I think that's fair to say.
Anyway, moving on from that. So again, I want to reiterate. I'll repeat this as many times as necessary. Her story is amazing. Her comeback is amazing. I'm thrilled for her to have come back, and it must have been awesome to be in that moment right there in front of that crowd that is fully supportive of her. I still don't like the way all this went down from a narrative standpoint only. Um, Britt Baker is your biggest star. She is. It's a short lived company. They've only been around 3+ years. She is the biggest star in the history of the company. And then somebody from outside the company and from your biggest competition, who hasn't wrestled in 5 years, comes back and takes care of you. I don't like it narratively. Brick can withstand it. I'm not worried about that per se, but I wish they had eased her in. It's like when WWE brought in Ronda Rousey. I mean, she was arguably the biggest female athlete in the world the moment she entered that ring. They didn't put her right to the title. They gave her a feud with, speaking of Stephanie McMahon, that's the feud they gave her just to get her feet wet in the company. When Cody Rhodes came back to WWE, they put him in with a star, don't get me wrong, but they didn't put him right in with the champion. And at least they had that go for 2 months. So if you're right and this feud continues, then that could be better. But I wish she had gone in there with someone else to start. And it would need to be someone who was a good worker that could potentially carry her as needed. They got Madison Rain on that roster. She could have done that. That's not. I understand it's not the hottest feud in the world, but they could have started her off there, built her up a little bit, then have her come in and take care of business. Walking in on her first day after 5 years off and beating the face. I was even Brock Lesnar came back from WWE and lost to John Cena in his first match. And I know that probably wasn't a great decision, but we love Saraya, but she's no Brock Lesnar. Nobody's Brock Lesnar. So
Right.
that's all.
No,
That's
I
all
agree
for
with you.
me. Now I give them the benefit of the doubt. I think they can turn this into something. I mentioned in last week's preview that having Britt win this match would be the more difficult story to tell. That they probably wouldn't take that path. They didn't. Fair game. Um, I don't want
It
her to
may
lose her momentum. I don't want Saraya to lose her momentum after this. If she does, then it was really wasted.
Oh, absolutely. I think you're right. It may have been the more difficult story to tell, but it may have been the right story to tell. Like you said, she hasn't wrestled in 5 years. Everyone knows she's got the neck problem or neck issue, and then she comes in and beats the top female star in the company or top overall star in the company. So it is kind of, and I just think the crowd was flat. I was super shocked by that. I think they were so afraid she was going to get re-injured that they almost didn't enjoy it enough.
Yeah, I noticed
But
that.
it was great to see her come back, and I think that'll kind of wrap it up for me for this match. Who
Yep,
do we
I've
have
said my
next?
2.5 cents. I think maybe even 3 cents by this point. All right, the next match was another match that we didn't have on our preview. It was announced after we recorded. It was the three-way match for the TNT title. Wardlow defended against Samoa Joe and Powerhouse Hobbs. Had this match been announced beforehand, I would have predicted a Wardlow victory. That did not happen. Joe won the match.
Yeah, I was a little surprised by this one. This one caught me off guard. I after the turn last week of Joe choking out Wardlow, I knew this was going to be an incredibly physical, big man match. But I thought Wardlow or Hobbs was gonna. I thought Wardlow was gonna retain mostly, but thought if they were gonna switch it, they'd give it to Hobbs because Joe already has an ROH title. But this was a big surprise, a big shocker. I enjoyed it though. The Wardlow for a big guy is doing some of the craziest moves I've ever seen. At one point, he's doing swantons and
Right.
dives over the top, and um, another guy who's getting up there in age, but who continues to put on great matches and is there every time is Smo Joe. My God, I mean, what a great addition to the company. Overall, this was probably the most physical match of the show, I'd say. But I loved it.
Yeah, Joe knows his style and he knows how to work his way. And he doesn't have to do over the top rope, Hurricane Rana type moves. I'm sure he could, believe it or not, but Wardlow did a nice little flip off the top rope as well. My perception would have been that, okay, Hobbs got put into this match. They probably want to get some mileage out of Joe versus Wardlow because that could be an interesting feud. So Hobbs would be in there to take the fall so that the feud could continue. I just would have thought Wardlow would have been the one delivering it. The way I look at it here now, though, as good as Wardlow is, and he is an attraction as long as he doesn't kill somebody with those powerbomb symphonies, which he's apparently no one's ever gotten hurt from him, so he's delivering them perfectly well. Uh, he didn't really feel like the champion. He didn't really do anything with the title. He doesn't necessarily need the title, and he may have bigger things in store. We'll discuss that as we close in on the show's main event. But Joe is technically a double champion now. It's two different companies, which is even well, we all know it's one company, but it's two different
That
name
drives me
brands.
nuts.
Right.
Yeah.
Uh, Pac or Pac had that as well. He had two titles and he didn't hold on to them for long. So maybe Joe's ready to relinquish one of them soon. But
I
it was a physical match. It didn't go super long, which is good. There was enough long matches on the program. Yeah, Joe's the TNT champ. Let's see what they do.
I think this could be a positive thing for Wardlow, though. And you ask, how can losing your title be a positive thing per se? I think they've really messed Wardlow's run here up a bit. he got over organically
Mm.
massively with the fans. He was on fire. They gave him the TNT title, which is like their intercontinental,
Yeah.
their workers belt. It's on TV a lot more typically. And the guy was on fire. And then out of nowhere, he's just gone for like a month. And for whatever reason, they cooled him off. They really missed the boat, I think, with with that run. So it it just didn't mean nothing on him anymore. So let's take the title off. Let's get him back hot again. You know, you could continue the feud or whatnot. But I think Wardlow almost needed like a fresh start uh, because no fault of his own, seemingly he just got cooled off, which is unexplainable to me. But I still think in the future he's going to be a mega star.
Absolutely. And losing your title can be beneficial. To use an old example again, Steve Austin losing the Intercontinental title to take that next step up. Shawn Michaels doing the same. It's been known to happen, losing your title to come into your benefit. So, all right, we have our next match, and we have a tag team match between Sting and Darby Allin against Jeff Jarrett and my goodness, why did I blank? Jay Lethal. Sorry, I love Jay Lethal. How did I forget his name? If he's listening, I'm sorry, Bubba. I just totally blanked. I don't know why. My apologies. Sting and Darby Allin got the win. Talk to me.
Yeah, this was a fun match. I loved the intro. I thought it was creative. Um, Sting is unbelievable. At 60 something years old to still be diving off of stuff and doing 20-minute matches, and it's truly incredible. Darby, he does what Darby does, insane bump after insane bump. How this guy is alive, I do not know, but he is so much fun to watch. The term reckless abandonment perfectly
Mm-hmm.
encompasses this man. He does everything 100 miles an hour, percent, whether it's a dive, flying through the bottom rope like a missile, slamming into a guy on the floor. He's truly incredible. This was a fun match. I love seeing Sting. Um, Even the Satnam Singh spots were fun. Pretty creative, entertaining. This was a fun match.
And I was correct last week. Sting is undefeated in AEW. Now he's not had a singles match.
Sure.
He's had it's either 8 tag team matches and 5 trios matches, or 9 and 4, whatever it is. But AEW has pushed itself as the wins matter, losses matter. At the very least, you'd think that Allen and Sting should be in line for a tag team title match. But at the end of the day, it's okay to be a wrestling company, and it's okay to delve into the entertainment. And records can be important as you wish. Winning streaks have mattered in the past. Goldberg, Oscar, currently with Jade Cargill. Um, but it's okay not to be a sports league and have an undefeated team have to be in contention. So if they could tone down that aspect of their programming, or if they chose to, I should say, my feelings wouldn't be hurt. But as long as they have that aspect of it going, I feel like Sting and Darby Allin have to be contenders for the tag titles.
That'd be a fair assumption. The only issue I had with this match, and this is more with the company as a whole, not specifically this match. I hate when you got two fights going on at the same time, and the cameras just on one. And AW's one of their biggest problems to me, as far as not looking as good as the WWE, is their production quality. I don't know if they need more cameras or better cameramen or really what, but I just feel like the production value in this match was low and a lot of spots were kind of missed
That's a
in the
fair,
crowd.
yeah, no, that's a fair assessment. And but in truth, though, WWE's production values, sometimes their live production is I've never been a fan of doing too many jump cuts.
Sure.
But beyond that, their production team rivals that of anyone anywhere in any industry. WWE do promo videos, hype videos, tribute videos like nobody. So AEW, they're going to be behind on that. I do agree. It could be a little bit better. I don't know who their director of programming is. Um, we know WWE's got Kevin Dunn, and I understand a lot of people don't like Kevin Dunn, but he's mostly good at his job. Um, at least on the production side of it. When he tries to get involved in creative, that doesn't go well. But his production quality is through the roof. So they would need their version of a Kevin Dunn if they feel
There was
like they
just
don't already have one. Yeah.
sure just a few spots where you just caught like the tail end of the move, or you just caught a little bit of it. Like so, I just thought there was some spots that got missed during this match. By the cameraman.
As many
But
tag team and trios matches as they have, that's something you would think they'd want to address.
But other than that, it was super great to see Sting and Darby get the win. Moving on to the next match. Who do we have, Petey?
Our next match is Jamie Hayter challenging for the AEW interim women's championship against Tony Cena. I'm sorry, Tony Storm. What did you think about this match? I just gave you a little sneak preview of what I thought. What did you think?
I enjoyed the match. I thought for sure they were going to Hater in this. The only issue I had, I wish Britt wouldn't have came out. She kind of already had her match, and it really kind of crapped on her own match by, she's obviously healed up and in good enough shape to run back out there and celebrate with her friend, but she
Mhm.
wasn't strong enough to kick out of a DDT. So I didn't enjoy that. I think Jamie should have got her moment in the sun to enjoy winning that championship by herself. Um, but I get it. They're obviously leading to the best friends feud um, for the championship match. But it was fun. The crowd really seems to be behind Jamie. I'm not super sold on her myself, but Tony wasn't really doing anything for that belt either. So, nothing to lose by trying Jamie, see if she can get some steam behind it. And with the fan support, I think she can.
Yeah. Before I talk about the match, I want to state for the record once again my opinion on interim championships. I think it's silly.
They suck.
It's
Let's be
silly.
real.
Yeah. If Thunder Rosa is your champion and she is unable to compete, the title becomes vacant. Okay, or it gets. I don't like the idea of passing it to the number one contender. I think there should still be one in a match, but
Sure.
someone else needs to be the champion. That's just it. Or you can just keep the title off TV and have a different excuse. Uh,
Right. But if you're going to do that, you don't have. I just think the interim thing they stole from UFC, but it doesn't work really in wrestling.
right.
So
I'm not sure if it
it's a
works for UFC.
terrible idea. Right. Right. And injuries happen. I get it. It sucks for Thunder Rosa. But when there's an injury, you bring her on TV. She tells the crowd, "Hey, I'm going to be out for a while. I got hurt. That it's unfortunate. It sucks, but I'm relinquishing my title till I get healthy. I come back and then I'll win it again." This interim thing, it drives me absolutely nuts.
Right. And to me, it waters down this match, and that's no offense to the
Greatly.
girls in the ring. Uh, and if you relinquish your title, if you're Thunder Rosa in this particular instance, yes, when you come back, you're gonna get your shot. We just saw them do that with the elite. Now, obviously, circumstances dictated that, but the elite lost their championship not in a match and came back and immediately got a shot. It didn't hurt anything by doing that. The only thing it hurts is in the interim, pun completely intended this time. In the interim, the championship matches just don't have. I'm not gonna say they don't have any value, but they don't have anywhere near as much value. Yeah, you got two girls fighting for a title, but the real champion sitting at home with her title. That's all I could keep thinking. and that
It,
sucks for the girls in the match. And in the case of the guys, when it happens with them, it sucks for them too. So to get that out the way, I want to say that they worked very hard. The in ring work had no problem. I hated the booking of this match. I called her Tony Cena before the match. Uh, 3 or 4 different times she was beat, and in any normal circumstance, you're beat unless you have like Cena power. And that was the worst thing about John Cena as a pro wrestler was the dude was Superman. You could throw him off the Empire State Building. He kicks out at two, I mean,
right, right.
and even I heard the crowd kind of murmur, or even I don't know if they were booing, but they didn't sound happy when Storm. I mean, she got curb stomped on the title and got rolled back in the ring and got hit with I can't remember if she used her finisher on this particular moment or not because there was so much going on move wise. But yeah, and she kicked out. And I'm like, if you're gonna have her lose anyway, I understand you're trying to make her look good, but there is a limit. It's like if you're watching a movie and the guy gets shot 6 times and he's okay, that's not cool. You get pulled out of the suspension of disbelief when that happens. And I felt like that was the equivalent of what happened here.
No, I agree 100%. As a wrestling fan, you obviously suspend your disbelief going into the match, like while watching the match. But when they do stuff so like King Kong wouldn't kick out of a curb stomp on a title belt. You know what I mean? Like, geez, I just thought it was way too much. Like
Yeah.
you said, way, way, way too much for non-established, wrestlers. Like if it was the face of the company superstar, like if for instance, if Moxley would have done it in a big match or something, or a Kenny Omega, you can kind of get away with it.
Mm-hmm.
But uh, somebody that's not on that kind of level getting away, it almost makes a mockery out of it. It was just too much.
Right. And just to clarify, and I don't mean to speak for you here, but I think we're cool with this. This isn't just a guy girl thing. I mean, if Charlotte Flair maybe could also get away with that too, or
Oh
Ronda
yeah,
Rousey could get away
100%.
with it. Even Shayna Baszler can get away with it because of her image, even though her win loss record isn't what is might meet the acceptable standard for top star. She has that image of as a toughie, as a roughneck, so to speak, and she can get away with that. Tony Storm is a good worker. She is athletic. She is a good storyteller in the ring, but she is not invincible, and that is not what's been presented to us in any way. And if they want to present her that way, they need a lot more buildup than it's going to take 3 people, including 2 top stars, to beat her. Um, when it should have been done much earlier than that. And at the end of the day, they had her lose anyway. So we can hate her a little bit. I think both of them. Again, I'm not the type that thinks one match ruins everything. In the moment, there's some disappointment. I think they both recover. It's fine as long as they don't kind of try this again with Tony Storm, because you don't want the crowd turning on her. She's got natural babyface ability. Um, you don't want to make her that version of John Cena the crowd couldn't stand anymore because it would take 2 different machine guns to kill this guy, and
Right.
otherwise he can't be beat. And that doesn't make for intriguing television. And it's not just a wrestling thing. Like I said, if you're watching a movie, if Bruce Willis is out there and he gets shot in the face and he just keeps going, what?
Right.
We
Yeah,
understand we're
yeah,
not watching reality, but what? We'll have that
yeah.
same reaction.
I
So
agree 100%. It was just
yeah.
too much. Maybe the worst match on the card, honestly.
Booking wise, I would say yes, for sure. Again, I'm not taking away from the in ring work. They worked hard. They got the crowd into it. They were undercut, and I feel bad for both of them that they were undercut like that.
Very fair.
And our next match is going to have something in a similar regard, but we'll explain why it worked in this match. So the semi-main was our boys. Everyone loves the Acclaimed. They went up against Swerve and Our Glory, defending their tag titles in what has now become the rubber match in this series. The Acclaimed won. retain the titles. Talk to me.
I enjoyed it. Crowd was super hot. Great entrance as always. Uh, I liked how Billy Gunn kind of gave them their spotlight and let them kind of do the majority of the match. He did have the run in, but overall tonight the attention was on the Acclaimed and not Mr. Ass. Um, I almost think that the placement of this match was a little weird. Like I would have rather seen them like maybe in the spot where the elite match was and then have the elite match here. Um, but overall, match was great. The guys worked their ass off. The right team won. The story was finally told of Keith Lee having enough of Swerve's shenanigans, and Keith Lee officially turned on Swerve, left him for dead, and the Acclaim come out on top. So I think obviously we're going to Swerve versus Keith Lee next. Not sure where the Acclaim's going to after this, but this was a fun match. I really enjoyed it.
Right. And there was a little bit of that whole he should be beat and he kicked out anyway, but and I don't want to sound contradictory, but it worked better in this match for this reason. The overall narrative of the match was phenomenal. You had so many different stories being told at once. You're right. They were smart to keep Billy in the back. Why did he run out though? When Swerve got those pliers out.
Right,
That provided the proper impetus to get Billy out there.
right,
And that and they handled that well because Billy never made contact with Swerve. You know, he jumped over him, he missed him. Swerve got a hit in. All the referees came in because nobody wanted to see that match end in a DQ.
right,
Nobody. And had Billy got his hands on Swerve and they didn't call a DQ, that would have put a damper on it. So they had to walk a little bit of a tightrope there, but they did it phenomenally. And they had me going. They had me going. I thought that Swerve was going to take Keith and bring him over to the dark side. I was convinced. So I got reverse swerved, as it were. And that is another pun intended. I mean, that's all. That's Vince Russo, swerve, bro.
right,
But, I'm like, oh, everyone thinks we're coming in a match. We thought, most people thought they're eventually going to dissolve, right?
sure,
I'm like, no, the swerve is going to be that Keith Lee's actually going to embrace the dark side and team up with Swerve and win this match and get nuclear heat. And then I got put right back to where I started when Keith dropped the pliers. I mean, so that was, and that is credit to everybody in this match. But those two dudes, Keith Lee and Swerve, have some of the best facials ever in wrestling, and that's not a stretch for me to say that. Swerve is a perfect heel. He can play a face, but he's a perfect heel. And Keith Lee's gotten a Dusty Rhodes comparisons his whole career, so let's go ahead and just steer into that. He's got that Dusty potential. It's not even potential anymore. He's reaching it. He's almost. He's not Dusty Rhodes level, but that's hard enough to do anyway. But he has that presence, and he's a natural baby face in that regard. That's going to be a great feud. Um, yeah, the story of the match made it so that okay, the occasional kick out here when you weren't expecting it. And I would like to say that unexpected kickouts are fine. And you just don't want, it's like anything else. You don't want to use it too much. But as far as where the Acclaim goes next, like I said, it probably should be Sting and Darby Allin. It won't be, of course. It seems like FTR is next on the docket for them. That'd be my guess.
yeah. I don't know for sure where they're going, tag team wise. I would like to see Keith Lee and Swerve have a match, or a feud even.
A
I
proper
think
feud.
this is the time where they can build Keith Lee as a huge baby face, get the crowd behind him again. Swerve is supremely talented, athletic, facial expressions. I mean, just the guy's a total package, and I think if they give him a good run as a true heel, he could definitely get some heat and be a top heel
Yeah, we'd be looking for this
potential.
feud. Yeah, we'd be looking for this feud to elevate both guys. And you need feuds like these.
Sure.
Non-title feuds that bring up the profile of everybody involved. AEW is good at those. CM Punk, MJF, CM Punk, Eddie Kingston. They're good at those kind of feuds where it's a personal issue. Titles can go on the back burner for the time being. We're looking to settle this between us, and then they can move on to bigger and better. And we're gonna give AEW the benefit of the doubt. We were gonna say they're gonna be able to pull this off with these two guys.
I certainly hope so. The Acclaim stay on top, which is where they belong
Where
right
they
now.
belong. Best act in wrestling.
Right now, definitely the
I think they're the
hottest.
best act in wrestling. And there's nothing dissuading me from thinking otherwise anytime in the near future. As good as the bloodline is, I'll give the Acclaimed right now top spot because they're a little fresher to me. That's the tiebreaker as far as I'm concerned. They're just so good, and they
Yeah,
can work. It's not like they're just talk. They're not like Road Dogg back in the day. Talk. Go have a 5 minute match and bounce. These guys, they
right.
can work, and they are
Bowen
worthy champions.
Bowen sold his ass off. I
Yeah,
mean,
they did.
even on the final move of the match, the Acclaim's finishing, which I never saw that like spinning power bomb
Mm-hmm.
thing. They
Couldn't get him up.
throw, yeah, they throw Swerve's feet on Bowen's shoulder, and he sold that so well the whole match. And even just the guy's foot being on his shoulder brought him down to a knee. Crowd came back to life instantly. It gave him that energy and power to fight through the pain, to flip him up, and to finish the match.
Yeah.
The Acclaimed have the crowd in the palm of their hand. Everybody's supporting them. They are on fire.
That's Bret Hart level selling, man. Bret Hart would tweak his knee in a match and be selling it like 4 matches later. He knew
Right.
that's something. So before we go to the main event, scissor me, daddy.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. How have we not done that yet? And I just
Right.
before we move on to main event, I have one gripe. I have a huge gripe. The Acclaimed does not have a Wikipedia page. What the hell? They
That's
each
so
have
random.
individual. They each have individual pages. The team doesn't. I mean, we need to fix that. We're gonna get on that. We're gonna be the reason the Acclaim gets a Wikipedia page. All right.
There you
So
go.
yeah, we are now at the main event, and a new era has dawned on All Elite Wrestling. Maxwell Jacob Friedman is your new AEW champion, having defeated John Moxley with a little bit of help, but we'll discuss the ramifications of that. This was a great match. I mean, it just they had drama, it had intrigue, it had talent. It's kind of old versus new. And Mox isn't that old, but he's a solid decade older than MJF. Give me your thoughts.
This was a incredible match. The way they booked this, I really loved. They had you believing the entire match that MJF was the babyface and that Moxley was the heel, even to the point where Moxley took about probably 75% of this match. I mean, he was beating the tar out of MJF to the point where the crowd even started booing Moxley,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't know if we've seen in AEW in the 3.5 years he's been there. That said, he embraced that role. He was giving the crowd the finger. He and Moxley, pronouns, pal. Uh, Moxley's flipping the crowd off, giving it back to him a little bit. Just laying it in on MJF, and then out of nowhere, and the key thing to remember is MJF told you the number one thing that Devil did was make you believe he didn't exist.
Uh-huh.
And so Regal comes out. You think, you know, he's going to help Moxley because he's the de facto leader of the BCC. And then out of nowhere, I see him slide these knucks in, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, what is happening
All
here?"
right.
And then, bam, MJF lays Moxley out. We got a new champion in AEW, a new face of the company. The Devil is taking over AEW.
Which one's the devil, MJF or Regal?
That might be the real question there.
So yeah, your analysis as always was on point right there. I wonder if they don't move forward with MJF as a babyface still. I think they can pull. I mean, MJF has kind of reached Rock status, the Rock status, where he's a heel, but his act is so good that you can't help but cheer him. And it's just a natural, organic thing. The crowds, and I understand the pay per view wasn't on Long Island necessarily, but it was kind of in the New York tri-state metro, whatever you
area.
want to call that area. He's going to have his fans there, but I think they could run the show in Alaska right now and you get cheered because he's so over with his act. He
Sure.
obviously he's a good talker. It doesn't take a brain surgeon to figure that out. Uh, but he is a good worker too, and he has good ring psychology. He is a good choice. I mean, he's young.
He's
He was
only
born in 19
25.
he's born in 1996. Just for reference point, the earliest born WWE champion is Bray Wyatt. He was born in 1987. Nobody born 1988 or later has ever been WWE champion. And AEW
Wow.
is running out here with a kid that was born in 1996. Just for reference, folks, I'm going to age myself here. In 1996, I started my senior year of high school. So they got this young boy out there who, I don't want to say young boy because that sounds like he is still learning. He's not. He's fully matured as a professional wrestler, but he's still so
Mhm.
young. He can be doing this. I mean, he's 19 years younger than AJ Styles.
Yeah, it's
We could
incredible.
presumably have 19 more years of elite talent ahead of him. AEW needs to do everything they can to make sure they keep this guy. Otherwise, WWE will happily take him, and we'll talk about him on that program. We're going to be talking about this guy for decades. You know,
Absolutely. He is, in my mind, one of the only true stars in AEW outside of Chris Jericho. To me, MJF is the only other superstar they have. If you watch the post scrum, which a lot of people did after what happened at the last pay per view, is post scrum.
get your popcorn ready.
MJF, right? MJF comes in, and I don't think they're going to go with the babyface heel just based solely on, or the babyface turn just based solely off this. He came in dropping a lot of f bombs, telling calling Tony Khan a mark and saying, all you marks thought that I was, going to do it the right way. Screw the right way. I've got the belt. That's all that matters. So I think it was just all a scam, but that shows you how great of an actor MJF is because he made everyone believe he was changing his ways and gonna earn the title and win it the right way. But instead he you got to give the devil his due, as they
Mm-hmm.
say. He he cheated, he didn't get caught, he won the belt, and as he said in the post scrum, I'm going to get on my private jet, go fly back to Hollywood, finish making my movie, and I'm the champion now. F all you marks. Have a good night.
And
I mean,
yeah, and all that
paraphrasing a
said,
little, but yeah.
and all that said, I could still see him getting babyface reactions from here on out. I mean,
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, AEW's crowd is so fickle, and they go back and forth on certain things. So I think he'll definitely have his portion of the crowd that loves and support him. I'm seeing scarves everywhere
mm,
in the crowd, which you didn't really see before. But I think this is just the best story they have going. So naturally, the crowd is going to be interested into it and give you those reactions because I don't care what anybody says. I don't think anybody saw Regal being the one to turn there. I know as long as I've been a wrestling fan, 20 plus years, I wasn't expecting that there.
it wasn't foremost of mine. All you can come up with any kind of scenario for a wrestling match, and I'm sure enough people juggled enough thoughts in their head that one of those could have been that. Their promo that they did together, um, that should be used as the catalyst of like, look, Regal come out and say, I didn't want to say so in front of the world, but yeah, everything I said was right, and I did make a mistake, and I'm gonna try to make up for it now. There is that subtext that you can find in that promo, and part of the reason is because they're two of the best talkers in the history of wrestling. Um, for all the love we give MJF here, we would be remiss not to mention Mox. You could argue that Mox is the AEW MVP
Oh
over the
yeah,
last three
definitely.
years, at least from the moment he stepped into the company. I'm hoping because he was due for a vacation. Am I not? Am I correct? When the
He
whole
was
CM Punk thing went down,
right,
I'm
and
hoping he
he.
gets his vacation at least. Let him go get a little break.
Well, I think
Go spend
that's
some
what
time
this
with your
is
wife.
about. Yeah,
Yeah, maybe.
I think that's what this is mainly about too, is he was going to take some time off and rest up and spend time
Yeah,
with his new daughter and everything. And then when the stuff with the elite and CM Punk
yeah,
happened and all of a sudden there's no champion, they kind of sweet talked him into staying and
yeah,
then, carrying the belt for an extra couple months.
yeah.
So if Moxley does get a break and we don't see him on TV for a while, I think it's well earned for sure.
And I think absence makes the heart grow fonder, man. I think.
Yeah,
I mean, especially in WWE because WWE they run way more shows than AEW does, but an injury angle is so easy, and it's such an easy way to get heat, and it's such an easy way to build up a baby face. I don't know why they don't do it more often, just to give these guys some time off.
sure.
Wrestlers go 24/7, 365. You know, I don't understand AEW's work schedule isn't quite as hectic, but there's still
Oh,
three.
it's a lot easier.
Yeah, it is, but there's no off season, as the old saying goes. Everybody gets an off season in every other athletic endeavor. Let's
Right.
call it that. And these guys don't. So yeah, if Mox needs some time off, give him a month off. Put a little promo package together before he comes back. He'll come back through that curtain and get a huge pop because they miss him. Triple H is the best example of that. He went down with his quad injury a mega heel,
Right.
and then he comes back in Madison Square Garden and roof falls off the place. Babyface pop when he comes back because they missed him. They
Right.
hated him, but they missed him too. So uh, time off is good for wrestlers.
You got to have it. And as far as I know, or as far as I can remember, I don't believe Moxley has had any time off. So 3 years without a vacation, he
Yeah,
definitely deserves one. My only question is now, where's this leave? The BCC, where's this leave? Or Brian Danielson and Claudio and Wheeler Yudah. Where, what are they going to do?
yeah, it
I'm
might be
eager to
kind of.
see Wednesday if they have a confrontation with Regal or the story that comes out of this.
I could see it being a loose alliance going forward, kind of when Triple H left DX back in 2001 after they'd reestablished his heels. Um, I wouldn't be surprised to see Yuta teaming up with Claudio here and there, but I'm not sure the BCC name may not be there anymore. Not sure. We do want to mention that we're not overlooking John Moxley's time away when he was undergoing treatment, but we do not
Oh,
consider that a vacation by any means, obviously.
no.
So
Right.
we think it would be nice for him to actually have his own time to himself, to his daughter, to his wife, to whoever else he may want. But we're not overlooking the fact that he did miss time, but this would be different.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
So all in all, the in-ring quality of Full Gear was fantastic. The booking left a little to be desired. The overarching question, which we're not going to answer today, we're not going to answer on any day because it's a big question, is are wrestling companies over reliant on the big move, kick out, big move, kick out, big move, kick out to get heat for a match? We're not going to pretend that AEW is the only one that does this. WWE does this all the time.
Sure.
They tend to save it for bigger events. WrestleMania, pretty much the first finisher guarantees no victory. We know that
Oh,
by
yeah.
now. Um, if you can do it within a good narrative, just like the acclaim match, just like Shawn Michaels Undertaker WrestleMania 25. If you can do it within the narrative of the match, it can work. But are they over reliant on it? I say yes as a simple answer. The difficult answer would take a long time to delve into. But like any trope, if it's used too much, it can become boring.
Well, it just takes the suspension of disbelief completely out of it. I mean, like we talked about Jungle Boy going off of the cage,
Right.
dropping an elbow through a guy through a table, and then doing more. But I think it's a little old school in the mindset. I think this modern wrestling is more move based, and people are just led to believe that guys are bigger, faster, stronger, so therefore can kick out of more. I think is the implied meaning behind it.
Right. I can think of that. All right. So that said, we did enjoy the show, and we have our little gripes here and there, but we definitely enjoyed the show. So we're gonna take a step out of the wrestling ring just for a moment and step onto the gridiron. Uh, Not much to talk about in the NFL. Teams played, some won, some lost. College football is a little bit more interesting to us right now. Partially because both of our teams, my team TCU, Steven's team Georgia, remain undefeated. Not the prettiest victories last week, but victories nonetheless. The top four in whatever order it's going to be: Georgia, Ohio State, TCU, Michigan. That's the order I think it should be. A number five spot. Who do you think? USC, LSU, someone else?
USC is my vote right now, with Tennessee getting flat out humiliated and embarrassed by South Carolina and the Fighting Shane Beamers. I think without question now USC should be in the fifth spot. And I think honestly, if Ohio State beats Michigan, I think our top four will likely be set with Georgia, Ohio State, TCU, and USC sneaking in as contingent on TCU and USC winning their conference championships. Um, I think USC is going to sneak in due to ratings and because of Tennessee's loss. USC's never been in a college football playoff, and I just think with TV ratings being as big of a deal as they are nowadays, why wouldn't you want to have the biggest state in our country represented? This was a crazy week though in football. You had a lot of crappy weather, cold games, low scores, last minute victories. Um, I thought Michigan was going to get upset. I was worried, pretty worried about TCU for the longest time. Good old hacksaw Jim Duggan for the save there. Uh, but it was a very interesting week. I mean, even my dogs struggled with. I mean, we didn't really struggle with Kentucky. We just couldn't get our offense going. It was 16-0, but it felt like we handled them pretty well.
Yeah, 16-6,
Uh,
but yeah.
yeah, they ended up getting six at the end, but it
Oh, I
just
see what you're saying. My bad.
yeah, it was just a defensive week in college. And I think the cold weather played a lot into it, but overall, college football is the greatest game in the world.
It
There's
can
nothing
be.
better.
It can be, except when the boardrooms take over. I can't imagine why anybody would put LSU ahead of USC. I can't imagine it. And it's only the SEC bias that would do it. They got two losses, including a loss at home to Florida State, and they got smoked by Tennessee also at home. The LSU game was the Florida State game wasn't at home, but it was, I think, in the state of Louisiana. It was a neutral site game that they basically had the home field in. Uh,
The
you're right.
argument
Tennessee got
is,
smashed.
oh, I was going to say, the argument is if they were to beat Alabama and then beat Georgia in the SEC title game, if you beat Alabama and Georgia in the same year, you deserve to go. I don't care if you do have two losses. That's just my opinion. The
I
SEC
don't.
conf to me, the SEC conference championship should mean a little bit more because the conference is so much better than every other conference in college football, and it's going to be crazy if LSU does beat Georgia. Some might believe that we might roll over just to try to get them in. I look for us to come out and handle LSU pretty easily. I think our defense will shut down their quarterback, and I think that he is, their offense. The guy that can run, can throw, and if you contain him, they don't have much else. And then, they got a couple studs at linebacker on defense, but those guys typically aren't going to score you any points. So, you know, you can neutralize that.
I don't know. I'm just
But
kind of sick of the
what
SEC.
what's your top four?
I mean,
I know you're sick of them,
I
but
mean, the reason I'm sick of the
it's
SEC is
fair.
because they get away with everything. I mean, I need to take this moment to really deeply congratulate the University of Alabama. That was the most brave performance I've ever seen in my life to come out on that field this late in the season at home against Austin P, a well-known powerhouse throughout the history of college football, and to have Bryce Young throw a fourth quarter touchdown pass to extend the lead to 34. I mean,
Thank
wow.
God, right?
Okay, so if you couldn't tell, if you have a sarcasm meter at your house, I probably just broke it. uh, I'm sick of the SEC doing this, scheduling games late in the season against cupcakes at home, because they know, at least traditionally speaking, they know early season losses weigh you down a lot less than late season losses do. So they
Right.
mitigate that by scheduling these games late in the year. Credit to teams like Georgia and Kentucky that didn't take the bait. They played each other late in the year. Georgia will play their last game against Georgia Tech. And I understand Georgia Tech did have a big win this week against North Carolina, by the way. I
Yeah,
understand
that
Georgia Tech's no powerhouse, but this is a traditional rival. That's okay. I'm not
sure.
aware of any Alabama Austin P rivalry. I would love to be corrected if I'm wrong, but I don't think
No,
that quite exists. So every SEC team this week that didn't play in conference lost lost status with me. All of them.
Bama always plays a cupcake before the Iron Bowl next week. So I get it. You know, should they be playing better competitions? Yeah, for sure. But that's just how they've scheduled it like that for decades
And I hate
now.
it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't really even think Georgia should be playing Georgia Tech anymore. I mean, we're so much we're so far ahead of them. It's almost not fair. They did have a huge win against North Carolina last week, and to beat Drake May, who I think is probably the best quarterback in all of college football, that surprised me. But I think that speaks more to how kind of bad the rest of North Carolina's team is, rather than how good Georgia Tech is. I mean, I looked last night. The spread was Georgia minus 35, and it's only Tuesday. So you got to think it's probably going to go up even more by this weekend once the money starts rolling in. Is that a game? I mean, it's a you hope nobody gets hurt game, is what it is. Get ready for the SEC title game and hope no one gets hurt. But as it stands now, we have Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, and TCU as the top four. Obviously, Michigan and Ohio State play each other, so one of them's going to basically be eliminated by the other. If Michigan wins, do you think Ohio State will still get in? Do
I
you think
think
the
they'll
Big Ten will get two teams in?
I think they'll find a way to get Ohio State in at the expense of someone like TCU or USC,
Well, what if
even if they
TCU
win out.
wins? Okay, so if TCU wins their conference championship, you still think the Big Ten will get two?
I'll be worried about it for sure.
What if LSU beats Georgia somehow in the SEC title game and you got a two-loss SEC champion LSU, a uh, a TCU Big 12 champion, USC wins Pac, and let's say Michigan wins the Big Ten. What do you think they'll do then?
Well, the TCU fan in me tells me that they'll leave TCU out, even though they're undefeated. But if that were the case, under that scenario, only Michigan and TCU would be left undefeated. So obviously, Michigan and Georgia would get in, and justifiably, Georgia's already, unless they lose a Georgia Tech, they're in. Even if they lose to Georgia Tech, they probably still get in if they win the SEC title game. Um, but to answer your question, honestly, I think they would leave USC out. It would be Michigan, TCU, LSU, and Georgia. But the what if scenarios are exactly what they are. They're what ifs. We anticipate tonight when the rankings come out that it'll stay exactly the same. I believe TCU should be third, but not the end of the world if they're not. We'll just have to see how it plays out.
I just think it's very disrespectful if they're not almost. I think they've earned it, playing their tail off. and
Yeah,
flat out deserve it.
they've won games on the road. They've beaten everyone on their schedule. Iowa State's up next. Not the best record, but they got a good defense. And then it would be most likely Kansas State in a rematch. Of course, it's a rematch because they already play the entire conference in the Big
Right.
12 game.
So that
All
was
right.
just the nuclear meltdown. Everybody loses scenario for
Yeah.
fun.
2007.
But right, more to come
Yeah.
next week.
Yeah. 2007. That's what happened. But yeah, we'll have much more college football to talk about next week as well. Just a quick shout out before we get back to WWE to the World Cup starting. I'm a huge soccer fan, but I'm more a domestic league guy. That said, this morning, Saudi Arabia beat Argentina. That just needs mentioning. Uh, Argentina is a lot of teams' favorite to win the World Cup.
Wow.
And Saudi Arabia came in, if I'm not mistaken, the lowest ranked side according to the FIFA rankings, and they beat them. It's a group stage match. They're not eliminated, but it's a shocker.
Did
Uh,
Messi play?
he played and he scored a goal. Uh,
Wow.
he scored a goal on a penalty kick. But Saudi Arabia came out in the second half, bang bang, scored 2 quick goals. Argentina couldn't come back. So
So my question to you, everyone knows this FIFA is they could be bought. Let's just throw it
oh
out
yeah.
there. Was there any chicanery in this match, or do you think was it legit?
No, the
Or
match itself was fine. I think
because
once it gets on the field, everything's okay. People's problems off the field.
me and a work colleague were talking about this last night. Starting these games off now and giving the refs the power to give your captain a yellow card because of armbands
Right. Yeah, that's a whole
or
mess.
protests. This is insane to me. Like
Yeah.
this is supposed to be the biggest soccer showdown or spectacle they have. And the more I look into this World Cup in Qatar, it's hard for me honestly to even respect or want to show any like watch it or
Right.
anything
I
because
understand.
of how crappy of a country their rights are just their human rights are insane,
Yep.
and everything seems to be fixed or a work almost for soccer.
Right.
And so I just was curious if it was a legit
It
win
seemed. I
or
mean,
they
Argentina had 3 goals called off for offside, but replay showed they were offside. I
so it
mean,
was an
so
accurate
yeah, it was
call.
accurate. So,
I
but
just had heard that every time the World Cup happens, the hosting country just seems to magically always get out of their group, no
it's
matter how crappy of a team they have.
yeah, it's happened every
And
time except 2010. South Africa did not get out of their group. So Qatar had lost their first match already to Ecuador. They're going to have a tough time getting out of their group, but we'll see.
I did see though that the home team we tied Wales,
USA and Wales tied. Yes,
gave up a late goal in the 86th minute, I believe.
82nd, I think.
The
Penalty kick to Gareth Bale, who actually plays in the United States now.
fun fact, it's Christian Bale's brother,
I think, yeah,
actually.
I think, yeah.
I am Batman.
Yeah, they're not actually brothers, guys. We're just messing around.
Why
All
does
righty.
everyone have the last name of Bale over there? It's so
It's
weird.
it's it's common. We'll just say that it's common.
Is that like America's Johnson or Smith? Just
Uh,
Bale.
my Welsh, uh, my Welsh knowledge isn't super strong.
Nah, I'm just teasing. I'm
I
just
know.
teasing. But I spoke with someone from the Netherlands though, and so he's an avid soccer fan, and he
Uh-huh.
told me that he said everybody's name's Bale, and everyone with that last name is incredible soccer player.
I guess so. All righty. Let's go ahead and step back into the ring here. This Saturday, and I guess pay-per-views are on Saturdays now, just period. The WWE presents Survivor Series War Games. That is the actual official title of the pay-per-view. And they've got 5 matches announced. I'm not sure if they're going to add too many more because the War Games matches do take up some time.
For
But
sure.
let's run down the 3 non War Games matches they got going, and then we'll discuss the War Games matches. First off, it's a one-on-one matchup. AJ Styles and Finn Balor. That is a Bullet Club reunion type match. What are you expecting here?
I think people have waited for this for a while. Um, it's gonna be it's gonna be a great match. You know, these two guys are gonna put on a show. They're two of the absolute very best in the entire company or in all of wrestling, you know, across any companies. They have that history, that story, going back to Japan where, you know, they were both the leader of the Bullet Club at, you know, it's arguably its hottest points. Um, Now back in WWE, we thought they were going to kind of team up, and then you know they've teased them working together, and you know now that AJ's got the OC back with him, I think this was only natural. It was leading to this, you know, and I think I'm not going to give any prediction on who I think is going to win the match yet because I'm sure we're going to do a prediction show. But I'm really looking forward to this one.
Yep, and as far as making a prediction, I can't make one yet either. I think there's more information to be had. I can see it not having a winner and having it be a total schmoz between all the teams and just get it having it get thrown out. Not the
Yeah,
best pay-per-view, premium live event, whatever they call it. Not the best
yeah.
kind of ending for those, but they can serve their purpose. The two title matches that are on the show, one of them seems like a foregone conclusion. Ronda Rousey will be defending her title against Shotzi Blackheart, or just Shotzi now. Uh, I love Shotzi. I think she's great. I think the world ends if she beats Ronda, though. I mean, we
There
don't see that
is
happening.
more of a chance that me or you would beat Ronda Rousey, become the women's champion, than Shotzi Blackheart at this point. I
Oh.
think it's fair to say.
And Shotzi's got a nice future ahead of her. She's got a great gimmick. She's got a lot going for her, but I think
I
this is
do
just
like
a
her
stepping
gimmick.
stone. Yeah, I think this
I
is a
think
stepping
she
stone
could
feud
be.
for Ronda.
Oh yeah, definitely. Shotzi could potentially be a huge baby face like down the line,
Yeah,
but no chance of beating
and
Ronda.
her getting beat by Ronda won't hurt her at all.
Well,
Uh,
no,
the
no.
next one's an intriguing one. We just saw a triple threat match for a secondary title happen on AEW, in which the titles changed hands. And now we have another possibility of that for WWE. Seth freaking Rollins, excuse me, using our full name here, defending the U.S. title against two former U.S. champions, Bobby Lashley and Austin Theory. Is this where Austin Theory sees the promise of his new character, or are we going to get a delayed reaction to that?
So
Delayed payoff, I should say.
to me this depends on what they're planning on doing with Seth. If they're going to have him back in the Universal Championship or a picture, or setting up a feud with Roman, then yeah, I think Seth will lose. But otherwise, he just got the U.S. title, and it would kind of be a flip floppy to just take it off of him. That being said, Bobby Lashley's pissed and on fire right now. Austin Theory seems pissed and on fire, you know, right now as well. I don't know how we're gonna pick this match, man.
Yes, we're gonna need more information for sure. We're just gonna give a quick preview of the two War Games matches. They're doing one for the ladies and one for the gentlemen. On one side, we have Team Damage Control with Bailey, Dakota Kai, Io Sky, joining up with Nikki Cross and Rhea Ripley, kind of maybe doing double duty that evening if she's going to be involved in the AJ Finn match. And on the other side, it's going to be the triumvirate of Bianca Belair, Alexa Bliss, and Asuka. They've been working well together lately. They're being joined by Mia Yim, who is, by the way, now married to Keith Lee. I did not realize they had officially tied the knot, so congratulations to them. And
Yeah.
a fifth member who is yet to be determined that will be released on SmackDown. So obviously, with not knowing who's in that match, we're not going to make that prediction. But then they're doing a good job, I think, in building the heat to this. And I think every single woman in this match will have her role.
I'm hoping a I'm hoping for a surprise return as the
Mm-hmm.
fifth person here. I think maybe this is where Sasha could come back and make
Or
a
a
big
little
splash. That's right. Maybe
baby.
Charlotte comes back babyface, and joins up with them. There's a lot of interesting possibilities. We're just gonna have to get a few more Raws and SmackDowns and until we can figure that all out.
And there's been rumors of a lot of previously released WWE wrestlers coming back. I'm not big on the rumor mill, but I've heard the names Chelsea Green. I've heard the names Tegan Knox. If presented correctly, they would be a good addition to this match. They don't have to be Charlotte Flair level. Mia Yim came back and seamlessly slid into this match. So it can be done. They kind of made it seem like it's a big deal. And I don't want to diss Chelsea Green or Tegan Knox, but they haven't had anywhere near the kind of run to be considered big deals at this point. So Charlotte, Sasha, even Naomi would work. I mean,
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of those three for
yeah.
sure.
Next is the men's War Games match, which is almost certainly going to close the show. This is going to be a fun one. Oh my goodness. The Brawling Brutes, Sheamus, Ridge Holland, Butch, Drew McIntyre, Kevin Owens. What a team. They're going to be facing off the Bloodline. And I don't even need to tell you who's in the Bloodline because Sami Zayn is blood, yo. He is
Sammy
in that
Oos.
team. Sami Oos he is the oosiest part of that team. It's going to be the Usos, Solo, Roman, Sammy. The momentum right now is riding with the makeshift team, the Sheamus team. Um, Traditionally, that means you lose the match, but right now, I'm leaning toward them winning. Um, just based on the momentum they're carrying through, it seems like something big is going to come out of this. We've talked a lot about who might replace Roman Reigns one day as the champion. We haven't talked about, and I don't think it's generally talked about who might one day defeat the Usos and their reign. And I think if I had to make a bet right now, I would say the team that beats them is Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens down the line. And I think this match could start that ball rolling.
Yeah, that's where I think they're going with this. Eventually, you got to think that something's going to happen, and Sammy's going to either show some compassion or Kevin's going to show some compassion, and it's going to lead to them getting back together. And I agree with you. I think down the line that could be maybe WrestleMania even.
Right. And
That
if
could be the tag team match for WrestleMania, and it'd be phenomenal for sure.
yeah, and if Sammy gets kicked out of the bloodline, that would be nuclear babyface.
Oh yeah,
For I mean, he's already got he's potentially the most over babyface in the company right now, even though he's not one by strict definition. But yeah, to see a WrestleMania match between the Usos, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, that would, for one thing, it would give Kevin Owens finally given the Grand Slam. I've never seen anybody win the three singles titles so quickly, and then the tag title. AJ Styles did it that way. The tag title came last, but
oh,
Owens has
okay.
gone years where the tag title would have given him the Grand Slam officially, and he hasn't officially got it. So, uh,
Spend a decade trying to get a tag title.
right, and that's kind of crazy, but that's where we stand. So that's what we have on tap for the Survivor Series. We are absolutely, positively looking to hit it with a review show, a preview show on Saturday. Um, we
I'm
might
looking
have we'll
forward
have a
to it.
little bit more information about college football at that point too. We'll just run through the top four as they presented it, maybe even a Thursday night contest to talk about in the NFL. But we are going to be back Saturday for a little bit more in depth. We're not going to go too long on it. It'll be a shorter show. It'll be our first midweek show, and it's part of the idea that we might want to expand to more than just once per week. So keep that in mind as a possibility for the future. We're enjoying what we're doing. We are hoping that you are enjoying what we are doing. We are greatly and eminently thankful for all of you that have been through it with us. It should be mentioned on air that we had a little bit of a technical issue in our last episode. We apologize for that. We apologized for it last week. It's cleaned up. As Steven likes to say, we're going to get better every week. And even if you think we're the best, we're still going to try to get better for you. So,
That's the goal.
Any parting thoughts for our wonderful audience before we sign off, Stephen?
no, like you said, just want to keep getting better every week. We hope you enjoyed this. Follow us on Twitter at Catching Flies W1. That's at CATCHINGFLIES Catching Flies W1. Support us on Spotify or YouTube. You can listen for free. It's free to like and subscribe. So we appreciate all of the support and all those who have reached out and shown some love. And you know, we love wrestling and sports, and we just want to get together and have fun and talk about the things we love. And that will do it for this week's episode of Catching Flies Wrestling Podcast. For Pete McCottis, I am Stephen Burton. Real quick, we wanted to give a huge shout out to High Spots Wrestling Network. They gave us a shout out on their shows. They're on 3 to 4 times per week on Facebook with live auctions for wrestling memorabilia. You can buy your favorite superstars, 8x10s or action figures or other cool pieces. They make a lot of cool turnbuckles that come signed by different AEW and WWE stars. A lot of great stuff. Those guys gave us a shout out. I wanted to return the favor. Also, big thanks to Conan and Keeping It 100 for a shout out. They've been running for 4 or 5 years now, and to me, they're the best wrestling podcast there is. I hope one day we could be on their level. But so thank you to Conan, Disco Inferno, JF Feeney. We appreciate your guys' supports. Thank you, High Spots. And we wanted to encourage our listeners to go show them some love as well. Join the Patreon, watch the Facebook shows, buy some merch. And a lot of wrestling fans always wonder where they can get some cool signed stuff, and High Spots is definitely the place. So thank you guys so much. That'll do it for us. We will see you Saturday.